Hello guys, today we'll be covering a 2020 American fantasy comedy film called Magic Camp. All the relevant links and information for the film will be in the pinned comment below. Now let's get right into the movie. Theo Moses is a 12-year-old boy. He's an aspiring magician. His father, who recently died, introduced him to magic for the first time. He's coping with his father's death by shutting himself away in his room and performing card tricks he learned from his father. Although he loves magic, he doesn't show his tricks to his mother because he thinks she's not interested. One day, Theo receives an acceptance mail from the Institute of Magic for a summer camp. Institute of Magic is a conservatory for promising young magicians founded by Roy Preston. In the camp, world-famous magicians teach 7 types of magic: sleight of hand, prediction, restoration, vanish in appearance, solid through solid, escape, and levitation. Initially, Theo is a bit hesitant, but he agrees to attend the camp thinking his father must have applied for him. Andy Duckerman is a former magician and a former student of Preston. He left magic after he was betrayed by his partner, Christina Darkwood, who is one of the greatest magicians in Las Vegas now, while Andy is a cab driver. Preston surprises Andy by inviting him to the summer camp as a counselor in place of the famous David Blaine. Andy denies him at first, but hearing that Darkwood will be coming too, he agrees to go. Andy is enthused over the idea that he'll compete with her, and maybe this time, get his revenge by winning against her. At camp, the students are divided into 4 different cabins led by 4 counselors: Chris Darkwood, Andy Duckerman, Lena Lampert, and Xerxes. Each counselor will teach the kids magic and tricks, and at the end of the year, the students will face off against each other at the prestigious Top Hat competition. The kids are informed that the best cabin wins the Top Hat award, while the most exceptional student wins the Golden Wand. Next, Preston welcomes all the young magicians in an entertaining manner. He introduces all 4 counselors of the 4 cabins: Xerxes for the spades, Lena for the clubs, Chris for the diamonds, and finally Andy for the hearts. The 3 magicians introduce themselves with a little trick of their own, while Andy has come unprepared. He shows his 3 golden wands that he won while he was a student himself. The kids are disappointed to have him as their counselor instead of David Blaine. Later, Theo befriends Nathan Jenkins, a boy who is ridden with allergies. They both belong to the Hearts. Along with the 2 boys, there's Ruth Brusselbach, who's obsessed with bunnies, Judge Kessler, the son of a famous magician, Cornelius Kessler, who's interested more in fashion than in magic, and lastly, Vera Costa, who seems to be antisocial and very sarcastic. All of them are new to the magic world. On the very first day, Theo and Nathan get picked by Vic D'Antonio of the Diamonds cabin. Vic is the Golden Wand winner of the previous year and loves to bully the new ones. He tells Theo to show a trick which the latter fails to do because of nervousness. In return, Vic performs a trick and splashes water on Theo. In the meantime, Andy and Chris meet after a long time. Chris is substantially more popular among the kids while nobody recognizes Andy. Andy's still bitter about her betraying him by signing up for a TV show on her own behind his back, while they used to perform as a duo named Abracaduo. But Andy hides his reality and bluffs to her about doing shows around the world and making good money. He also challenges that his bunk is going to beat her in the Top Hat competition. Christina Darkwood enthusiastically welcomes her students to the Diamonds, including Vic and Janelle Santos, who keeps skipping the practice as she's not interested in magic. On the other hand, the Hearts receive an uninteresting welcome from their counselor. When Andy asks the students about their names and specialties, he finds out that they're all a bunch of new and inexperienced kids. The countdown begins. Every morning, Preston announces the number of days remaining until the Top Hat competition, along with the day's lunch menu. Next, we see Andy teaching several fundamental elements of magic. First, he teaches the kids the basics of escapes, where their hands are tied together in front. None of his students are able to perform the task. After that, he teaches the false transfer. The kids struggle with this one as well. Nathan even ends up choking on the sponge. Seeing the kids struggle, Andy then takes them to work on animal handling, where there are different kinds of birds and animals. Since Ruth is highly enthusiastic about the bunnies, Andy asks her to hold one, but for some reason she cannot hold it. While the Hearts are stuck with the basics, other cabins are learning advanced tricks and getting better. After trying for days, frustrated, Andy goes to see Preston with a complaint about giving him rookies with 0 skills. He says the kids are hopeless and leaves saying that he's done. Back in the cabin, as he prepares to leave, he sees Theo doing some card tricks. Naturally, Andy's impressed and asks Theo to do it once again, but Theo refuses to because he has stage fright. He calmly encourages the boys to go on while he does the small talk. Theo eventually succeeds to show his tricks to Andy, who's amazed to discover his student's hidden talent. Next, Andy decides to work on the kids' hidden specialties rather than making them learn all the tricks. He's determined to beat Darkwood. However, the kids still have a hard time learning things. One time, bunny lover Ruth lets the rabbits escape and creates havoc all around. Running after the bunnies, Theo meets Janelle from the Diamonds. They engage in a conversation where she reveals that her parents are rich and they send her to different camps every summer so she doesn't get in their way. She admits she's great at escaping and thinks it's fun, just like a puzzle. Gradually, the kids get better with the tricks as Andy helps them find their hidden talents. Judd is enthusiastic about costumes and starts designing costumes with Vera. Ruth finds out she's better with birds than rabbits. And Nathan realizes he can perform magic with his extraordinary ability to calculate things mentally. Meanwhile, Theo still suffers from stage fright and is unable to perform in front of people. To help him overcome the stage fright, Andy takes him to Preston's secret library where they find a photo of Abracaduo. Andy reveals that he and Darkwood were close as campers, later became partners, and did street magic before getting real gigs, and even dated each other. He adds that Darkwood accepted a television deal behind his back, which got them in a fight, eventually leading to a breakup. Darkwood did the TV gig solo, which skyrocketed her fame, while Andy faded into obscurity after he stopped having fun on stage. One day, Janelle gets caught by Darkwood while sneaking out of the magic camp. Darkwood persuades Janelle to give magic a chance as she has potential in her. In the meantime, Andy and the other kids help Theo overcome his stage fright through the gauntlet method. He makes Theo perform his tricks while other kids move around him, screaming and disturbing him. As Theo successfully finishes his tricks amid the chaos, the teacher and students get into a fun magic fight. Once, Vic tries to humiliate Nathan in the Hearts with some card tricks. Theo not only spoils his tricks, but outdoes him with his own trick. Vic, who doesn't like to lose to anyone, burns Theo's deck of cards, a gift from his father. This cruel act devastated Theo's heart, and he later opens up about his father's death to his friends. Everyone in the group reveals their secret, including Andy. The heavy mood eventually lightens when Theo gives Andy a wooden stick, with which he pretends to put everyone under a magic spell that sweeps the sadness away. A few nights before the competition, the Diamonds sneak into the cabin of the Hearts, tie them to their beds, and check out all the props for themselves. The next morning, the Hearts become hopeless after finding out that the Diamonds messed up their props. But Andy takes them to town and encourages them to find things they can improvise with. The kids find the things they need and, in the meantime, also perform the acts in public. Later that night, Andy confronts Darkwood for the prop incident. Darkwood says that she already punished her bunk and made them return the props. She also reveals that she tried to negotiate a deal for both of them, which she didn't get a chance to explain to him. They clear the misunderstanding and reconcile. Darkwood then books a matinee performance at Treasure Island in Vegas for the next day. But Andy is hesitant about it because he won't be able to help the kids with preparation before the competition. Preston urges him to go, and finally, Andy accepts it. The next morning, Preston informs the Hearts that Andy has gone to Vegas and will be back for the show later that night. He offers to help them in their counselor's stead. Andy has a successful show and gets invited to perform the night show, which he agrees to. Back at the camp, the great show is about to begin. Everyone's parents and family members have come to witness their kids perform. Before the show, Preston informs the Hearts that Andy cannot make it back in time for the top hat. He somehow manages to lift their spirits. As the competition begins, in a turn of events, Theo disappears. Ruth performs with birds and finally holds a rabbit at the end of her performance. Vic performs his card magic, which astounds the audience. Moments later, Preston finds nervous Theo in the library. Theo says he can't perform because Andy's not there. But Preston encourages him to perform for his mom, revealing that the person who submitted Theo's application for the magic camp was his mom, not his dad. Theo says he can't go on the stage alone. Preston then conveys Andy's message to him that says to look to the wings if he gets lost on stage, and he'll find a true magician to help him. Meanwhile, Vera performs her quick change routine with Ruth's help. Nathan impresses the spectators with his witty mental calculations. He helps Janelle with her escape act, who is happy to find her parents among the crowd. Eventually, Theo gathers his courage and steps up on the stage. He gets nervous as he expected and looks to the left wing where there's a mirror reflecting his own image. He finally overcomes his fears and begins his performance, a special card trick dedicated to his family, thanking them for their support. Everyone is moved by his magic, including Andy, who, after turning down the Vegas show, has made it in time for the show. He watches his team perform while hiding behind the stage. He deduces that Preston arranged everything in order to restore Andy's love for magic and help him get his life together. Later, Preston announces the Hearts as the year's top hat winner, while Janelle wins the Golden Wand. He also hires Andy as the director of youth talent development for a year-round gig. Chris agrees to teach with Andy in the Institute of Magic occasionally if he features on her show in Vegas. Judd confesses his interest in fashion to his father, who proudly accepts his son's talent as magic. Ruth is able to hold a bunny and forms a close relationship with Vera. On the other hand, Vic apologizes to Theo and returns his cards, which she seemingly burnt before. And Theo and Janelle share a kiss before parting ways. The movie ends with a new video invitation for the next summer camp at the Institute of Magic, headed by Andy.